my name is Carrie Webster. This is Motivating the Middle. Again, if you got into the text group, yay, awesome. Feel free to respond to those questions. If you got a message that said it was full or you prefer not to do it that way, we'll go ahead and put messages in through the chat, which Allison will help me check. So my name is Carrie Webster. I'm one of the North Central District Counselors. I've been a member since 2009. I'm a life member of the Zeta Alpha chapter at Illinois State University. I've been both a chapter president and a North Central District president. That just gives you a little bit maybe on the leadership and where my background comes from within the sorority. I'm an honorary member of Kappa Kappa Psi for the North Central District. I'm married to my husband, Mitch. I have my son, Liam, who's in that picture there. He's going to be 2 in August. And I am a family and consumer science teacher at a Central Illinois high school in the Peoria area. This presentation is not my own words. This all comes from the book, Motivating the Middle, which was written by TJ Sullivan, so it's not my original concept. I do highly suggest this book. It's literally like 64 pages, really, really short, like you could read it in an hour, probably an hour or two. You can find it really cheap, especially used now. And it's just a really great resource, especially if you want to go back and present this to your own chapter. Okay, so we're going to dive right into the content here because we don't have a lot of time and I have a group activity that is going to take some time. So in this book, Motivating the Middle, we talk about how groups are normally split into 3 parts. So we have the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And so when you think of this term, the top third of your organization, think about your chapter, what people are in there and what traits come to mind. So if you are able to do the texting, you already got in, you can go ahead and text your answers now, okay? If you were not able to get into the texting or would prefer to use the chat, feel free to put those attributes in the chat. You can just throw them in there. So again, we're looking for what traits come to mind for the top third members of your organization. While you all are doing that, I'm gonna go ahead and go through what the book says, okay? So go ahead and keep doing that while I go through this next slide and then we'll see your answers here in a second. So according to TJ Sullivan, and I think all of us can definitely agree with what this looks like, the top third are our student leaders. This is probably a lot of you taking your time out of your day to come sit in these workshops and learn a little bit more. These are the people that do a lot of the work. So if you're in a chapter where I've heard people say, you know, we have a group of 10 people that does most of the work, that's probably your top third members. They are very visible both inside and outside your organization. So a lot of times even people in your college that are not part of Tau Beta Sigma know who these people are. They almost always have an opinion, which is not a bad thing, but they have an opinion on what is going on and they like to voice their opinion. They exert some kind of influence over the group, which means that people listen to what they say, people value their opinion, they care deeply about the organization. So when we think about those people who are majoring in TBS, these would definitely fit into the top third. They strive to better the organization, so they're really looking out for, you know, using the 8 and 5, using our mission statement, all of that stuff to better not only their chapter, but the national chapter. And you don't have to do much to motivate these people. They're pretty self-motivated. They want to do the work. A lot of times they would rather do this work than do their own schoolwork. My cat is also meowing if you can hear him down on the floor there. So these are our top third members. So let's see if we can get this to populate here.
And while that's going, I can read some from the chat too.
Go for it.
We saw dedicated, relentless, self-motivated, good attendance, show up at chapter events, hardworking, effective, passionate, empathetic, caring, driven, organized, always on time. The people that hold e-board offices. They're active in events, workshops, and conventions, and not only active in band, but also in their majors and other activities.
Awesome. The slide isn't working, but I'll just go ahead and pull my screen over here. So this is what I've got, a lot of the same stuff: honesty, dependability, dedicated, busy, Love TBS, hardworking, leadership, ambition. Officers or leaders work hard, organized, ambitious, eager, natural leaders, high expectations, passionate, etc. Awesome. Really good responses there. That's exactly, I think, what we all kind of see as these top third members. So on the flip side of that, I want you to think about the bottom third of your organization. So when I say the term bottom third, think about some of the people that maybe are in your chapter that are maybe not those top third people. What kind of traits come to mind? And before you, here, hold on, I got to go to the next poll, so give me 1 second. Okay, so if you are part of that text group, feel free to go ahead and text in your traits. Should hopefully, yep, there it comes, perfect. It's showing up on my screen too. And again, if you are not a part of that texting group, feel free to put your answers in the chat. So according to TJ Sullivan, the bottom third, these are the people who are the least likely to care about the organization. They're not always personally dedicated, so they won't personally sacrifice. They sometimes avoid paying dues. Sometimes they might publicly criticize the organization. Now remember, not all bottom third members are going to fall into this. Some people are less involved but aren't going to publicly criticize the organization, but some of them do. They might shirk their commitments, so they don't do their service hours, they don't show up for events, they might create drama. They care to the extent that it serves them. So they like to do the things, the specific things in the group. Maybe they like the sisterhood part, but they don't like the service part. They might complain about what's going on, but they don't contribute to the solution. And a lot of times these people are not comfortable stepping in to lead. Allison, you want to go ahead and share some of the responses?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have that they're trying their best, they're still valid. They may not respond to text or emails or miss events without communication.
Mm-hmm.
They may only show up to the necessary number of events to avoid being placed on probation, or don't like to participate in recitals or service projects.
Mm-hmm.
They may be burned out, quiet, passive, physically active, but not mentally engaged. Sometimes do the bare minimum to still be active, hold a more observational role, sometimes have problems prioritizing. And one person has heard of them being called letter wearers, people who think that they only join to have the letter shirts, but they don't want to interact.
Do the work, yes. I've not heard that term before, but I can totally see that. Here, what some of you put into the group, so shy, unmotivated, reserved, riding the coattails, I like that one. Inactive, fly on the wall. They're busy, right? That could be exactly be it, why they're not participating. Quiet, passive, uninterested, not doing anything more than what's required of them. Stagnant, dishonest, unreliable, apathetic. Yep. Apathetic, I'm pretty sure, is right on the cover of that book, of TJ Sullivan's book. So good responses there. Love that. I think you guys will find that some of the things you might think of as a bottom third member actually fit a little bit more into the middle third. So let's go ahead and go there. So the middle third, that's what this presentation is about. That's why you came, right? This is kind of the forgotten third. So these are the members in your organization. They do care. They care about Tau Beta Sigma. They care about the bands. They, in general, have a positive attitude, okay? So when they come and show up for things, they're not griping about the problems that you're having, or into your band building, you know, carrying on about what's going on in TBS. They, though, want to contribute in a way that fits their lifestyle. Okay, so you guys know this. College is busy. Some of us have jobs. You might be double majoring. You're in multiple groups. You're in band. That takes up so much of your time. And they're trying to find a way to fit into Tau Beta Sigma that fits what they want to do. This organization, so Tau Beta Sigma, is a priority, but maybe it's not the first. We talk about the order of priorities anyway. Tau Beta Sigma should technically really never be your first, but it might be your first outside of your, you know, top three, you know, school, family, those kinds of things. They're not going to be the first to step up or take control, but it's probably because they feel uncomfortable doing that, not because they don't want to. They may think that they're not, they don't have the skills to lead. They don't seek praise, responsibility, or attention. They're kind of, again, this forgotten third, kind of melt into the background. These are like your workhorse members that are there, do the work, but maybe don't get involved in any other ways. They like some aspects more than others, so maybe they really enjoy the things that they do with the band, but they don't enjoy so much the sisterhood events, or vice versa. Okay, and they're going to have multiple priorities. We just talked about this. They're busy. They have a lot of things going on. They've got a lot of different groups that they're trying to give their time to. So that's kind of your middle third here, all right? We are not going to do a word cloud for this one. We're going to jump right into how do you best utilize these people, because that's what this presentation is all about. How do you utilize these people in your group, keep them happy, maybe move them up to the top third members, and definitely keep them from going into the bottom. Okay, so we're going to be doing this group activity. We're going to do one together before you all break out into groups, but Allison is going to put everybody into a breakout room here in just a couple of minutes. Each group is going to get a strategy for how to best utilize these people. And you're going to discuss as a group. There's 3 questions on your 3 questions on the worksheet that I'm about to share with you. You're going to follow those prompts. You're going to type your answers right into the worksheet, and then we're going to share your ideas as a whole group. Okay, so I just want to make sure you're putting yourself in the middle's shoes. Think about those people that we just talked about. Y'all should have done that already, so I think we're good there. Okay, so here's your first strategy for best utilizing these people. Ask their opinion, but don't ask them to do anything. So on the worksheet, you're going to get these 3 questions. What might this look like? What might this sound? I'm sorry, why might this work? What might this look or sound like? And things to consider with this strategy. So the why might this work is, why do we do this? Why do you think this could be an effective strategy for some people? What might this look or sound like is, how do you do it? Okay, so what words would you use in this case? Ask their opinion. What would you say to the person? And things to consider with this strategy. So basically, like, maybe what are some of the cons that you need to be aware of with this strategy that could backfire on you, okay? So I think, Allison, in the speaker notes, there's the link to the Google document. If you want to get that in the chat. If you are in the texting group, feel free to any of those, I can go back here, answer any 3 of those questions pertaining to this strategy here, okay? If you want to text into that again, or if you're not in the texting group and you want to go ahead and put your comments on in the chat. So you can answer any 3 of those questions with this strategy. So ask their opinion, but don't ask them to do anything. So why do you think that's a good strategy? What might you say, or what does that look like within your own chapter or with you personally? And what are some things to consider when using this strategy to make sure that it doesn't backfire or that it goes well, okay? So you guys are working on that. Don't see anything, there we go, a couple popping up. We'll see if this will. Allison, do you have some in the?
Yep, they're typing away.
Okay. See a lot of people kind of looking up now, so it looks like maybe you've had your chance to put something in. Some of the ones that I have on my screen, which hopefully you can see, takes the pressure off but makes them feel heard. Use committees and meetings and actively seek out their input. That's great. A chance to contribute, feel like they're someone that can make a difference. Yes, that's huge. You want to make sure that everybody feels like their voice matters. They feel like their opinion is validated and important. Great, you guys are kind of all on the same thread there. Might backfire when they offer up ideas they wouldn't want to execute themselves. Absolutely, you kind of have to have your set of expectations when you do this. What are you doing with this information? If they tell you that you should do something a certain way and you disagree, how do you handle that? You definitely have to be careful not to look like you're taking their what they're saying and immediately throwing it out the door. Like, great, yeah, sounds good. We're not doing any of that. That would definitely backfire as you for you as a leader. Consider that their idea may only be able to be executed by them, or that they'll have to be more actively involved. Absolutely. These people don't want to overfocus, but want to be included. When do you think we should schedule XYZ event? Because then you know they're free. That's great. Yep. Asking when they're available. Good. All really good responses here.
And there's sort of more in the chat too. So a lot of these sisters are really burnt out. So asking them to do things might stress them out more. By asking for their opinion, they can still contribute and help without expending a great amount of energy.
Awesome.
And another one is it could work because it gets them engaged, but doesn't overwhelm them with too much to do. It could also help because they see that their opinions are valid and might be more likely to want to be involved on their own or get involved on their own without you pushing them to do so.
Awesome. Great responses, you guys. Hopefully now you can kind of see kind of what we're looking for with all of these strategies, okay? So again, what you're gonna do, Allison's gonna break you out into 12 rooms. There's 12 more activities. Allison, are the rooms labeled so they know which one to work on? Or
yeah, so each room is labeled as like breakout room number, and then there should be 2 or 3 of you in each of the rooms.
Kind of watching you as you were typing, as creepy as that sounds. We're gonna go ahead and go through what you guys wrote down. I think we're gonna go ahead and skip group 1 though. Thank you guys for putting all those thoughts in there. The spokesperson from group 1, is there anything you wrote down that we didn't talk about as a group before I move on to group number 2?
I think so. Let me pull it up real quick. Hi, everybody, by the way.
Hi, Connor.
So, we talked about, yeah, we were having a little bit of trouble coming up with stuff because that was the one we had just talked about. But considering what this might sound or look like, is asking students to consider dates, like you said, just so it might better fit into their schedule. And then asking what sisters think regarding service projects and what they personally think is viable so that the VPSP or the service committee can work to include it in the semester's projects. And then things to consider with the strategy, like we talked about as a group, backfiring could make them feel uncomfortable. And that's sometimes good because you want to push people out of their comfort zones, but you want people to feel like they get to do things, not have to do things. And you also might end up pushing people into the bottom third rather than pulling them up to the top third.
Mm-hmm.
And you especially don't want to invalidate somebody who has the courage to bring up a point, because by doing so, you might be encouraging them to not speak again in the future. And you want people to have the wheels in their brains moving a lot so that the discussions in your chapter meetings are productive. And so by taking that away from them, you're also kind of robbing your sisterhood of productivity. So yes, that is group 1.
Perfect. Thank you guys. Connor did a great job going through their examples there. Since we are short on time, if everybody could keep it to like a minute to a minute and a half when you go through what you wrote down in the document. This document is going to be posted, sent out, however they're going to do all of that so that you guys will have access to everything that everybody wrote. So group number 2, you had asked, what one thing do you think we could be doing to make this group stronger? So someone from group 2 want to talk very briefly about what you had? Otherwise I can do it if no one's comfortable.
Yeah, I can talk about it. Hey guys, I'm Sierra. We kind of just talked about with this just encouraging participation, especially for those people that don't typically speak, to bring up more ideas because every voice is important in the chapter. Some things that we talked about people can do is going around in a circle and just letting everyone speak at a time. Kind of like we do like a pass the rose kind of thing in my chapter, so everyone gets a chance to speak if they have something to say.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone's opinion can be brought up, and being able to also create that comfortable environment to allow people to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And then one thing we talked about like to consider is like don't constantly call on people that aren't always saying something. because you don't want to make it seem like the spotlight is constantly on them.
Mhm.
And also, like, when they do say something, like, don't dismiss what they say. Like, take a little bit of time to think about it, because if you instantly dismiss it, then they're not going to want to speak up the next time.
Awesome. I love what you put at the bottom there, acknowledge what they said and the confidence that it took to speak up. That's really good for those real shy members that are just having a hard time. Good, awesome, perfect. Thank you, group number 2. We're gonna go to group number 3, start and end your meetings on time. This might be tough for some folks, I know. Group number 3, you wanna talk about what you wrote down?
Hi. I was in group 3, and
Mhm.
we had a little trouble at the beginning getting stuff squared away. But so we put for why might this work? It will help sisters feel less burnout. If chapter goes on for 3 hours,
Mhm.
they're going to resent the fact that they're being held up in chapter. And also this start and ending on time will promote good ideals for other aspects of life outside of TBS.
Mhm.
What might this sound like? It makes sure that we stay on topic and like we don't talk about things that aren't related to chapter and stuff
Mhm.
that could be talked about like outside of chapter.
Mhm.
And we could also send out an email ahead of time with anticipated business topics, and we can kind of gauge how long we think the meeting will be, and we'll also remember that stuff will come up in the meeting that we didn't anticipate for, and so we can try to plan for that.
Mhm. Perfect. Thank you, Kristen. This one I cannot stress more the importance of. There are times when your meetings are going to have to be a little long. We get that, like officer elections, that kind of stuff. You really need to do everything in your power. Your president, whoever's making the schedule, needs to do everything in their power to do the most important things first, table things that can be tabled to the next week or the next month. And yeah, to keep everybody on task. Great. Thank you, group number 3. Let's go to group number 4, invite the significant others. Somebody from group number 4 want to speak?
Yeah, I'll go. I think you can hear me. I think.
Yes, you're good, Morgan. Yep.
Okay. So we originally weren't sure if this meant like romantic relationships or like friendships, but we basically said like it might increase like their wanting to be there, like if their friend or their boyfriend is there, and it might increase the numbers at the events. And like as far as like what it would look like, we started to talk about like a banquet, but we decided like it would look like a normal event. You would just have like more people there. And we decided like they were going to be super focused on their like significant others, so it might like that could be a con possibly, like if they're so focused on like like their friends, or they might not focus on the actual task at hand, or people without significant others could feel left out, just like wanting to avoid like the cliquey stuff. So.
Absolutely. Those are all really, really good points. Yeah, and it could be friends, it could be boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, whatever. But you're right. I think you do have to make sure that everybody still is doing what they're supposed to be doing, and make sure that the event is set up in such a way that that kind of goes easily. Good. Great job, group number 4. Let's go ahead and move on to group number 5. Give them the ability and the choice to skip things they don't enjoy. This gets a little bit touch and go, so I'm interested to see what you guys said. Who wants to speak from group number 5?
I guess I can.
Go for it, Devin.
So this was one that we did say could get really dangerous really quickly. But so for why this might work is it does keep people engaged in events because they actually want to be there. It stresses them out less, and they kind of have like a choice of what they want to go to without it feeling like a chore. What this might look like is not mandating things. It could keep attendance manageable, like especially if they have a bigger chapter. And it allows people to prioritize school and work and have a life outside of TBS and get those responsibilities covered before TBS things. And then obviously it could become really dangerous really fast. Like I said, a lot of people might interpret it as like, well, then I don't have to show up to anything at all.
Yeah.
People in your group might not understand why others skip out on things, and it can create tension. It can also create more problems than it actually solves.
Absolutely. I do think that last section, what do we have to consider, is the most important part of this one. If this is something that you're going to do, and I know some chapters that do this in smaller ways, chapters that have point systems set up for service, or just a point system in general where you have to have so many service points, so many fundraising points, so many XYZ things. That's a great way to do this. It really needs to be very standardized. You really have to make sure that you have a system in place and how it's supposed to work, and you stick to it. And there are going to be some events that everybody has to come to. Degrees, everybody has to come to. If you have a big service project where you need all hands on deck, everybody has to come to. So you really have to figure out if this is something, if you have enough events that people could skip some things. The other thing I would suggest is making people sign up ahead of time if you're going to do this, so that you don't have a service event and 2 people show up, right? Have people sign up ahead of time so that you know who's supposed to be there and you know you're going to have the hands that you need. Great job, group 5. That was a tough one. Let's go ahead and move on to number 6, minimize conflict in your group. Who's got number 6?
I can go.
Go for it.
So we talked about minimizing conflict in our group, and we said that this might work because less conflict could encourage the middle third to stick around more, because it takes more effort to resolve conflicts than it does to just kind of exist without them.
Mm-hmm.
And we said what this might look or sound like was asking everyone's opinions, making sure everyone feels like their thoughts are heard, they're valid, and
Mm-hmm.
not skipping over at anyone. And something to consider is conflict does not necessarily mean disagreements in chapter. When you have to hear all of the different viewpoints of something before you come to a decision. So there's a distinction, a difference between removing all disagreements and keeping what is still necessary to keep chapter healthy and functioning.
Absolutely, Jared. That's a great point to make. Yes, we would not move forward if we didn't have some kind of conflict, some kind of different points of view on a situation. That's the great thing about having an organization like this. Everybody can have their opinion heard. Absolutely. Really good job there, you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to number 7. Let them lead something they like the most. Somebody from group number 7 want to speak to this?
Yeah. So we talked about the fact that they're probably going to be more passionate about leading something if they actually are, like, if they care about it. And then we said that maybe if you present it as an option where you're like, hey, like, we're looking for somebody to lead this, like, would you be interested? And if you know that it's something that they like to do, or like give them a list of options of things that they could lead, as long as they're positive options, and you're not like, well, we don't have anybody else to do this, like it could be a really good thing. There were several things that you need to consider. Like, you don't want to be like a helicopter over them, but you still want to make sure that whatever is needed to get done is getting done. And then once it is done, you want to recognize them for what they did. Like, you can shout them out in a meeting and be like, wow, this person was great. I loved their effort this weekend. And it encourages the people in the rest of your chapter to see that they can lead without a title. It could motivate people to, like, step up and do things, even though they don't have like an exec or a committee title.
Absolutely. This is one of the best ways to help create leaders in your chapter. Because it's real life experience. Good. Awesome job, number 7. Group number 8, thank them for participating. Anybody from 8?
So we said that it might work because, sorry, I gotta go down to it. Recognizing people, not necessarily in leadership roles, like we had just said, encourages more people to get involved and not feel like they can't do anything because they don't have any positions. And it can help boost mental health by recognizing them, because if you like have mental health issues or something and you get complimented for doing something and like recognize that you were putting effort in, it can help with that and like feeling like you can do more and encourage them to keep trying. And it can also help strengthen the bond and love for one another, because oftentimes whenever somebody compliments you, you'll compliment them back. And just because someone doesn't have the time to take on a larger role doesn't mean that they shouldn't get recognized for what they did accomplish
And then we talked about how each of our chapters has some different thing in place where we can recognize a sister who is like doing more for the chapter and everything, and how you could write individual notes of appreciation to members, just letting them know like, hey, I see you and I love you and everything. And then saying thank you to everyone who contributed to a service project. And then we didn't think that there could be anything wrong with the strategy necessarily, because I mean, like, thanking people for their work matters, even if it's expected of us. Like, even if something is expected of you, it's nice to be recognized for it and nice to be acknowledged that you are doing it well.
Absolutely. I think as long as you're sincere, you can't go wrong with that strategy. Absolutely. Awesome job. Thank you. Number 9, offer to assist with other stressful areas. Who's got this?
Got this.
Perfect.
So why might this work? If someone has work or school stressing them out, they may feel more obligated to go do those things, which is totally fine. It's more of helping them know that they can still voice their ideas while dealing with other responsibilities. What might this sound or look like? They may feel a bit peer pressured, like they may feel that all eyes are on them during a committee meeting or during a normal meeting and just wanting their input. So just, you know, knowing how far is too far. And know that other responsibilities may be putting work on them as well. Their plate may be full with other organizations, bands, or schoolwork. And letting them take time for their other responsibilities, putting other things first.
Great.
And then other things to consider with this strategy was noting what they may have in their outside lives going on that may be stressing them out, and just, you know, being able to talk with them, tell them you can come to them if you ever need to like vent or anything, if it's really getting overwhelming. And just noting that they may have other organizations that they're a part of that need more prioritization than our specific sorority.
Absolutely. And this is a chance for people to work together with organizations too. So if that person does have another organization that needs some help with something, if it fits within our mission, within our purposes, we can help them out with that. I've seen a lot of chapters that do study groups. That's a great way to help with other stressful areas, is to have that time set aside for people to sit down together, or pair people up. Somebody who's really good in accounting, helping a freshman accounting student or something like that. Okay, great job, group number 9, thank you. Number 10, give them a meaningful supporting role. Who's got this one?
Hello, I'll go.
Hello, go for it, Christina.
All right, so we said it might work because it gives them the power to claim their place in the sorority, and it gives them the tools to build up their confidence to later get like a bigger role in something. And we said that it might look like giving them encouraging words, helping them help someone else on a project. So for example, like the committee head for the service committee could help the vice president of service on a project, and that gets them in the supporting role. And other things to consider, we said that you should back off and give them the space to do this role, and let them get their ideas out, and also offer support when they need it, like help structure or execute their plans with them.
Great, thank you, Christina. Those are all some really good ideas for that. A couple of you have hit on the not micromanaging people. People do not like when they are micromanaged, so good point there. Let's go to number 11, ask for help on one specific limited time task. Who's got this one?
So we said that this task doesn't require much commitment, but it still allows them to make a big impact and give them a sense of accomplishment, as well as asking for their help might make them feel appreciated and trusted to get this accomplished. So it sort of might create a snowball effect to have them contribute more and more as they get more comfortable, if that's not something that they're comfortable with. This could look like just completing one moving part of a service project, just completing one small task of a bigger element, or serving on a short-term committee. That way it might just be a month or a couple months. It's not something they have to spend a lot of time committing to, but things to consider on their strengths and weaknesses. That way, whatever task you assign them to do is something that they're comfortable with and something that they might be excited about. And if you don't know what they're comfortable with, just ask them. Say, what's one thing that you would that you think you could contribute or that your skills would benefit this position or this task.
Perfect. Really well said, Lauren. Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to number 12. Take some personal time with them. We have some people writing in number 12. Do you want to kind of explain? And I can also help type too if you want. Anybody from group number 12 want to do this one? We can do this one as a group if we need to.
12 would be a good one to do as a group.
Okay, let's do that. So you guys can just unmute yourselves and feel free to speak out or put something in the chat. So this is take some personal time. Why do we think this might work?
So we just elected new officers, and our new parliamentarian had this excellent idea to have the e-board go on coffee dates together as like a whole e-board, because it can get stressful and everything, and sometimes there can be some resentment towards the e-board, so feeling like you have like a support group in them is really nice as well.
Awesome. Very good. Anybody else for why this might work? We've got make them feel like they have a connection with someone in the organization. It can be a support group. Anything else for that one?
From the chat we have, it shows them that they're more than just another member in the chapter because someone is taking time to check on them and hang out with them to build that relationship more. And another one, the closer you are with another person, the better you know them and the more they're willing to help out and make things easier for you. And there's another one that says seen people. So there might be people as friends versus just members.
Yes, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you, whoever the anonymous llama is that is typing these in for me. I appreciate that. So what does this look or sound like? We've had a couple of things. So Kaylee, you said like the coffee dates. We've got movie nights, hangout. Does anybody else have a specific example that they want to share?
Shouldn't be right, but I actually think. Well, I think that just like inviting them to eat dinner with you or something, like when you go to your dinner, you can. That food court dates after chapter is a really good.
Yes, absolutely. That's a great point, Jim. It can be super easy like that. It does not have to be anything crazy. Yeah, just, hey, I'm going down to the food court at 6 o'clock, like you want to come with. Absolutely. We're going to go ahead, for the sake of time, move on to number 13, because I've got a few slides I want to get through after this. But the last one is slow down on decisions. The people who are actually left in the big room, we went ahead and went through this, so I'll speak for us here. So this is going to work because it allows people time to process what's happening in chapter, which then gives them the time to speak up, get their thoughts together and time to speak. Because the top might already know what they want to say, whereas these people need to think about it a little bit more. This might look like asking multiple times for comments or discussion in a chapter meeting. It might look like tabling the motion for a week, which means setting it aside and coming back to it. Sending out ideas ahead of time so everybody has a chance to look them over. Asking specific people for feedback that we know would be good to give feedback. It kind of boosts their confidence, like, oh, they actually want to hear my opinion. And letting people write things down before they talk. So if it's especially emotional or something that is very complex, it's a good habit to let everybody kind of get their thoughts down. It could even be a note in your phone or whatever, and then let them speak after that. Other things to consider with this strategy is making sure you're not talking in circles still, so using snap methods or other ways to make sure you're not doing that, and then actually setting a timeline to make sure you actually come to a final decision. You're not letting things be too drawn out, okay? Thank you to the National Leadership Team and students who helped with number 13. So like I said, all of those I'll make sure that this document is released to everybody. So just in case you didn't get all that down or you didn't have a chance to copy and paste it. I want to talk really briefly here. We've got only about 6 minutes until the end about putting a strategy in place. And these are kinds of things that we already hit on. It's things that are part of the strategies. So making sure the strategies are based on their ideas, wants, and needs. You have to figure out what those are. Surveys are a really great tool. If your chapter is not, you're using some kind of survey method to see how people are thinking on different things. I really think that is a great method to make sure you're really hitting what your membership wants you to do. You kind of got to romance the middle and get them to buy in. We talk about this at the district level all the time. How do we get the district to buy into this? You have to take their opinions into account. You have to give them a piece of the process. You have to make them a part of the process. And then when you present it to them, make sure that you're listening to what they're saying to you, okay? Move the majority into your favor, play the middle, but be sincere, right? This is not a game, this is real life, this is real people. You wanna make sure that you're still being sincere with what you're saying, even if you're trying to get them to think a certain way, okay? We don't wanna give false information or anything like that. Another strategy is just identifying a chronic issue in your organization. That could be attendance, that could be low follow-through, that could be lack of enthusiasm for service. And then think about those middle people and why are these things an issue? Ask them. Again, survey is great for this. Collect that data and then come together as a chapter to work on those issues. One of the biggest mistakes that I think Kelly and I have seen, at least in our district, is that it's a lot of times the executive board that goes through and puts these goals, strategies into place, when really it should be the entire chapter that's talking about it. The exec board may start with the idea and bring it to the chapter, but you're really going to want to make sure that you get everybody's buy-in by asking their opinion, okay? Real quick, so what about the bottom third? What do we do with those people? The bottom third that don't do much, shirk their responsibilities. Your job is to advance the mission, and you can't do this by fixing all of the people in your chapter, okay? You need to try to understand why they're in the bottom, what happened to put them in the bottom, but it is a waste of energy to focus solely on them, okay? It's a good idea to figure out why they're there, see if there's something you can do about it, but if there's not, you just gotta move on. You set those minimum standards, and you need to be willing to deal with the members that don't meet the minimums. They don't have enough service hours, what happens? They don't have enough fundraising, what happens? And you gotta hold everybody accountable, okay? This would be a great time to use conditional status on a member. Make sure everyone understands what's being asked of them from the very beginning. Before you even have membership candidates during your rush events, making sure you're very clear about what you are asking members in your organization to do so they're not surprised when they're suddenly a member and there's all these responsibilities that they didn't know about. Okay, what about the top third? Those awesome people, we can't forget about them either. I do want to recommend they need to remember that not everyone is going to be as equally committed and engaged as they are, or the things that motivate them might not motivate other people, and you gotta stop whining about it. People are the way they are. We'll do what we can do, but not everybody is like us, okay? Thank them for their service, notes, awards, 8 and 5 beads, whatever you're doing there. Recognize them in front of the group. Give them an award that's actually meaningful, okay? And challenge them. Give them new things to do to challenge them throughout the chapter. Give them a new project. Ask them what they want to do, okay? Give them something to challenge them, to kind of give them the ability to use that energy that they want for TBS.